Hi, this is Matt again, and in this tutorial, we're going to look at part 2 of assignment 4 for those of you that no longer have access to GarageBand. So what we're going to be doing is compiling our loops within Audacity. Hopefully you still have your loops that you exported from GarageBand the other day in class. The first thing that you need to do is drag and drop them into the Audacity folder. It's really easy. So I'm just going to use a couple of these tracks and arrange them in a really short B section. You should be able to use all of the arrangement concepts that I presented in the other tutorial. So you can resize these if you need more space to work with. That's sort of a nice feature. Gives you a little room to drop these other ones in. And let's minimize this one a little bit. And I have one more to drop in. Notice that the tracks retain their names. So exotic strings, contemplative, etc. If you look over here, you'll see the little track name. This is really cool. Now, the first thing you really need to do is go and save project and make sure that you put it into the same folder that you hopefully saved your GarageBand document into. So I'm going to call this McLean assignment 4, and this will call it the Audacity file, and you should have a GarageBand document in there. Operate as you have in the past in Audacity. You want to highlight tracks, hit duplicate, and I did Command D. Notice that unfortunately it will drop it down at the very bottom. But there's a workaround for this. If you go to tracks, sort tracks by name, it will put like tracks together. So this is cool. I can mute one and minimize it, and it'll keep them right next to each other. This way you won't get lost. And if you make a mistake, you can always go back to your original loops. If you were working at 120 beats a minute, you've done yourself a favor because everything maps out in 1 second increments. So if you have a 16 beat loop, it will be exactly 16 seconds long. So let's just give this a listen to make sure everything is playing at the same time. And then the next thing you need to do is repeat one of these in the beginning. So I'm going to go to Effect and use the repeat. And I'm just going to do this. Let's do it 4 times. And now I'm going to use a mover tool to bring in the second drum track. Well, let's see, where is it? Second beat. I'm going to move this and have it come in at the end of 8 measures, just like it did in GarageBand. Now notice as I move it, a yellow line appears when it syncs up with another track, the start or end of it. And this is the way that you keep everything together and have your loops start and end at the same time. One thing that I've noticed in Windows, some versions have sync lock engaged initially, and you'll get all these strange little clock signs. So you have to go up here into your transport and deselect the clock. We'll use this in a minute, but not yet. And then we need to get into this other little track, and we'll zoom in on it. We need to change the ending of it the way we did in GarageBand. So I'm going to highlight it, my selection tool, and I'm going to repeat it 1 time. And I'm going to change the second ending. So we get 1 repeat. And Audacity is not as good working with loops. It's not as easy to work with loops as it is in GarageBand. One thing that you can do is you can split. Oh, before we do anything, I need to create a duplicate. You can split a track, and I'm just going to mute and minimize this one in case I make a mistake. When you're editing these individual loops here, it's really easy to change the ending so it doesn't sync up to where it was originally. That's why I have this shadow track hiding here, just in case the ending changed length. Notice I'm going to swipe a region, and I'm going to use Effect and change the pitch, for example. This is a bug that I realized. Change pitch. So I'm going to alter it, and notice that it actually changes the length of the track, or region. And this is a problem. So we can undo this. So you really can't use that tool here. Or you can, but you're going to have to get in with your clippers and move things around so the ending doesn't end up in the wrong place. So for example, I'm going to move this, or repeat maybe this snare sound. So one way to do that is highlight it and then copy it, and then put your cursor right where you want to put it, or actually at the end of it here. So I'm going to copy and paste it. And notice what it did. It made it, it changed the length here. So this is a problem. One thing that I'm going to do is use a key command here, and I believe it's Control-I. It will make cuts. What you can do now is use your mover tool once the cuts have been made, and you can move the parts around and align them so that the rhythms happen at the right time. So what I really want to do is make this come over here, and then you can zoom in. You can already see this is much more time consuming than GarageBand. What I need to do is have it sync up to the end of the other track. So it looks like I've done that using the mover tool. Notice when it locks up, I get that great yellow line. So I'm going to just delete this original ending. And then I'm going to have to use my envelope tool to fade out this other track here. And I'll have to zoom in a little bit. There we go. I'm having trouble getting the little dot. So I'll fade this out, and then let's zoom out and listen to what happens to the rhythm. So you might have to use the time shift tool to get it right exactly where you want it. If you are working on Audacity, don't worry about editing the end of every other loop. Just do a couple to add some interest, because it's so time consuming. I really don't want you to get lost in it. Okay, once you've done that, we can zoom out. Now what you can do is highlight this edited region, and you can repeat it. Sorry, before you do that, we have to get in here and we have to join it. I can just hit join and that'll merge them together. That's the easiest way to do it. Now I can highlight it and use effect, and I'm going to hit repeat, and I'm going to repeat it a whole bunch of times. Let's do it 8 times and return. And now you can see I have a number of tracks operating at the same time. So all I need to do at this point is move this other piece of audio to come in a little bit later. I'll drag it. So this one is going to come in just like in GarageBand right here after 32 bars. Notice that the yellow line appears when I have it synced up. Looks like I've got one extra region on the end of this lower track. So I'm actually going to highlight it and delete it. Now, one reason they have the sync lock tool is that you can turn this on and highlight a region, and all of the tracks that you have selected can be moved at the same time. So if I use my mover tool, I have to create some space for it to move to. So for example, I'm just going to delete these other two, and now I have them sync locked. I double click on one region, and I can use the mover tool, and I can move this to other places in the song. And notice when I have this snuggled right up to the other one that my yellow line lights up. So there we go. I have 3 tracks that come in and they're all synced up together. My 4th track, remember to turn off sync lock. This causes all sorts of problems. But I'm going to move this other track. And what we'll do is have this one come in over here. Copy and use my arrow tool to go to the end and paste it. And it looks like it bumped this other region over. So it's definitely a little bit more problematic than GarageBand, but notice as I move this one around, it syncs up nicely. You can see the yellow line light up. And let's just listen to our transitions. So here's the first transition. Okay, that comes in right on time. Let's listen to this one. That works, and let's listen to this one. And you can hear a little bit of dropout in between the tracks. So what you're going to have to do is isolate those problems and zoom in and make sure that you join your tracks together. But happy editing. Remember, use copy and paste often, and keep it simple if you're using Audacity, because I understand that it is definitely a little bit lunkier than GarageBand. But this will enhance your editing chops. Also double check your final export and make sure that it hasn't clipped. Notice that my tracks are all too loud, and I have a red bar warning me that at some point I clipped. So what you're going to have to do, just like the last assignment, turn the gain down on the individual tracks. Usually the drums are the culprit that are too loud. And make sure that your final export sounds really good. The last thing you want to do is go back to the beginning and file. You're going to export everything all together as we'll do a WAV file here, and you'll notice when I hit save, it says your tracks will be mixed down to 2 stereo channels. And that's actually exactly what we want, because here we have 4 separate tracks, and in your case you'll actually have 10, but these will all be combined into a single export, and the final result should sound a lot like what people are doing in GarageBand. So good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.